I first heard about it when I was 17. A thread on some old conspiracy forum. A user claimed their cousin had seen a television that showed them their perfect life. Not a dream, not a fantasy, a perfect reality. They said it was so real you could smell the air, feel the wind on your skin, even taste the food on the table. But when it shut off, your real life would never feel the same again. It was an easy story to dismiss. People will say anything for attention online. Still, there was something about the way they wrote it. Not just the details, but the desperation bleeding through the words. They begged anyone reading to never try to find it. That night, I read every reply. Some laughed it off. Others added proof. Blurry photos of old box televisions, urban legends from different countries, even stories going back decades. The details changed from person to person, but the core was always the same. A television that showed you the life you secretly wanted most. A gift that ruined you forever. As the years passed, I started noticing references in strange places. A police report from the 80s about a woman who refused to leave her living room, insisting she had to go back. A classified ad that read only, "Dream screen for sale. Must be gone by Sunday." A photograph in a church newsletter of a smashed television. The caption warning about the devil's lure. At first, I thought it was just a fun obsession, something to research on nights I couldn't sleep. But the more I found, the less it felt like a joke. The stories weren't connected by coincidence. They were the same thing told again and again, decades apart. It became my secret project. I built timelines of sightings, mapped supposed locations. It seemed to move in a slow, winding path across the country, never staying in one place more than a few years. Each time, the stories would flare up locally before fading again. Then, about 6 months ago, I got my first real lead. A message from an anonymous account. They called themselves Glasslight and claimed to know where the television was now. They said it belonged to a man who lived 3 towns over in an old farmhouse that looked abandoned from the road. They didn't explain how they knew. They just gave me the address and ended with one sentence. "If you find it, do not turn it on." I told myself I was only going to look. I wanted to confirm it existed, maybe take a picture. I wasn't going to watch it. The farmhouse stood at the end of a dirt road swallowed up by bare trees. No lights, no sound, just the crunch of frost under my boots. I knocked once and the door opened almost instantly. The man who stood there looked empty. His face was thin, his skin pale with a sickly undertone, his eyes sunken and rimmed with red. He stared at me as if I were just another shadow in the room. "You're here for it," he said, not a question. He stepped aside and let me in. The living room was nearly bare with a sagging couch, a wooden chair, and against the far wall, the television. It was smaller than I expected, an old boxy set from the 70s with rounded corners on the glass. No power cord, no buttons except 2 dials. "It doesn't run on electricity," the man said softly. "It's older than that." I asked him if it really worked, if it truly showed you your dreams. He sat down in the wooden chair and leaned back, his gaze locked on the screen even though it was off. "It shows you what you want," he said. "Exactly what you want. It's not kindness. It's not mercy. It's hunger." I should have left right then. But my curiosity was like a hook buried deep in my chest. I sat down on the couch. The black glass reflected my faint silhouette. My hand shook slightly as I reached for the dial. When I turned it, there was no hum, no flicker, just light. I was in my childhood home, the one that had been torn down over a decade ago. My mother was in the kitchen, younger, smiling at me. She was baking cookies and I could smell the sugar and cinnamon in the air. She looked exactly as I remembered her, not the tired, ill woman she had become near the end. The view shifted. I was in a city apartment, but it was mine, filled with art, music, friends laughing in the other room. I was successful, loved. Every buried wish I had ever had was in front of me, breathing, alive. I could feel the warmth of the sunlight on my skin. I could taste the wine in my hand. I do not know how long I watched. When I finally came back, the man in the chair was gone. The house was silent. The television was black again. I left without saying a word. That was 2 months ago. Since then, nothing feels right. Food tastes dull. Music feels flat. The people I love seem far away, as if they're acting in roles they don't believe in. Even the sunlight feels wrong, a little too pale, a little too cold. I thought maybe time would dull it. It hasn't. It only grows sharper, the memory of that life inside the screen.